the last week in the news. Teams are preparing for free agency. The Rams are done with Cooper Kupp. And Myles Garrett is done in Cleveland. Where do these two all-pros go now? After 8 seasons with the team, the LA Rams officially decided to part ways with the 2021 Offensive Player of the Year. Now that LA is seeking a trade, the Rams have told Kupp that they will send him to a team that is a championship contender. What team that will be is what we're about to talk about. Kupp says, and I quote, "I thought I would begin and end my career here." Talking about in Los Angeles. Now, Kupp has only played 2 full seasons in 8 seasons in LA. Now, that's the 2020 season and 2021 season. And the last one being that offensive player of the year campaign. Since that campaign, Kupp has only played 33 games in 3 seasons. So it's time to move on for the LA Rams. Football's a business. With business involves money. Cooper Kupp has a $29.8 million cap hit next year after a 3-year deal he signed just last year. He's on the second year of it in 2025. Obviously, the Rams drafted a great, outstanding wideout in Puka Nacua, who absolutely picked up where Kupp left off when Kupp was injured all last year. And so they're going to stick with him. So, Alec, with all that being said, where does Cooper Kupp go?
I mean, from what I've seen Steelers as Commanders. I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, someone needs a vet that's going to help their wide receiver room. And I was thinking, I'm like, okay, a young QB is trying to recruit. He needs his first kind of big guy to come there. And that's where I landed on the Patriots. I look and I'm like, Drake May. Drake May needs someone to help him develop that's a sure, like, bona fide receiver, even if he's on the downside of his career now. I really believe that Cooper Kupp to the Patriots would be a good fit. Not only that, they're looking for a vet. They have a pretty young roster, and that wide receiver room needs some help. So, with all that being said, Cooper Kupp to the Patriots would be my pick. I don't know what it'll take to get it done. I've seen 3rd. I've seen 4th. You don't really know trade-wise or anything yet, but at this point, I think the Patriots. And then if I had to pick a team besides that, the Steelers, because I've seen that they're looking to possibly get rid of George Pickens. I don't know how true that is, but either way, you keep Pickens and can add Kupp. There you go. You have a duo too. So either of those two.
Now, in just a second, I do want to talk about Kupp's worth. I'm glad you brought that up. What could a team possibly give the Rams once they have acquired Kupp? But I have a little bit of a different answer than you. We talked about it before. The Patriots, Steelers, these are great spots, but you have to take into consideration a team that can incur that $29.8 million cap hit, and to restructure contracts for $30 million is not going to be easy. So you really have to send them to a team that can take that on. The Patriots are probably one of those teams. Steelers, maybe, depends on what they do with their quarterback situation.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking he stays in LA, Alec, but he goes to the Chargers. Now, Jim Harbaugh, new head coach for the Chargers, is now getting his system in LA, AFC LA. For me, Kupp going to the Chargers would be a move Harbaugh would make to get a guy that would be his. Because right now he has Herbert. That's not his guy. He was there. In the entire wide receiver room, besides Ladd McConkey, those aren't Harbaugh's guys. So why not bring in a guy that could be Harbaugh's guy? Make the move to get Kupp. Grab Kupp. The Chargers are projected to have $63 million in cap space for 2025. This would be perfect. It wouldn't even cut half of it to bring Kupp over there. And I guarantee you, because of the Rams signing Kupp to a 3-year deal, they wouldn't have all that $30 million. Usually, they would only have to take on the player's salary because Kupp signed a signing bonus with the Rams, so the Rams would have to pay for his signing bonus.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Kupp and the Chargers, that fit. You could add him into a room with McConkey, and then you have Palmer still there. I'm pretty sure. So between that, you have that's a good wide receiver. I mean, two. Would you slate him behind McConkey? You think probably?
It just depends. It really depends on the season. Because, like,
Right.
obviously he could probably be a wide receiver one on the Patriots if we're being for real.
Oh,
George Pickens
100%
would
the
probably beat
Patriots.
him out in Pittsburgh. On the Chargers, Vlad McConkey's only a rookie. The chances of Vlad McConkey beating out Kupp, we haven't seen a lot of Kupp. He's been injured so much. We haven't seen a lot of him to say, hey, this guy's going to be wide receiver number one. But if a team wants to trade for him, which they have to, he's not a free agent, you have to trade for him. What's this wide receiver going to be worth? Is it going to be like the Jets trade for Devontae Adams?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be that kind of worth? What kind of draft pick are we talking? What kind of capital are we talking to get Cooper Kupp to your team?
And you gotta take into account how many or like how much money each team's gonna eat. Like, is a team gonna eat more money to get less or give up less of a pick, or you know, you don't know who's gonna eat what. So we'll just have to see. I honestly think his value is somewhere between a third and a fourth round pick because you got Devontae's trade. His was a third and some, but Cubs not Devontae. So I mean, ideally, if you could get him for a third, fourth round pick, you're pulling the gun. Like, depends who you are. Depends how needy your team is.
I could see a third round pick for Kupp if the Rams package something with Kupp. Like if they gave him maybe a fifth or a sixth with Kupp. I don't know if a team, because this is the thing. You're on you're not even on the second year yet of your 3-year deal. GMs are going to take advantage of that and say, hey, LA, you're desperate. You're desperate to get rid of this guy because you need the capital to continue
Yeah.
to compete and keep your team young and thriving. You got Puka Nakua there, but you just don't want Kupp anymore. And you don't want that $30 million hit. I get that. But GMs are going to take advantage of that. They're going to say, hey, you're desperate to get rid of him. You give me Kupp in a fourth, Kupp in a fifth, I'll give you a third. I can't
Yeah.
see a just a swap Kupp in the third. And was that how similar the Adams trade was?
If we're talking like pick wise, I think it was what? Let me look. It was the third and some. Hold on. Um, it was a third rounder that can become a second rounder if Adams was a first or second team All Pro.
And he wasn't. There's no way.
No. So that's the thing. You can get kind of fancy with those picks.
So they're going to try to
Well,
do conditional picks.
I could see that. I could see like you could throw like a fourth that turns to a third if he reaches some milestone. You could do that.
And that might be the case because this is the thing. A
This is a
conditional
tough one.
pick is good and bad for your team. Because obviously you don't want to give as much capital as you want to acquire a player. So Harbaugh say, hey, he's going to give this conditional fourth. That'll be a third if Kupp gets 1,000 receiving yards. He wants Kupp to produce. He's going to have him for another year because he's traded him. He's still 2 years left on his contract. He's going to have him for 2 years. He wants him to produce. So you kind of have this standard of, oh, I want you to get there, but I have to give up more if you do.
Yep. And that's where the Patriots came into play because they said trade him to a contender, like you said. But the Patriots are trying to build around Drake May at this point, and they have a lot of money and they have a lot of picks. So they could outbid some people, but I don't know. I like the Chargers fit. If you weren't going to say Chargers, I actually did have that in my mind too. It
I
just
thought
makes
so.
sense. But I don't know. It's like the Patriots are going to go in on a receiver. It's just who is it at this point? Is it going to be T. Higgins? Is it going to be Kupp? You don't know.
Well, let's talk about another player who wants to go to a championship contender. Myles Garrett, the 2023 Defensive Player of the Year, has requested a trade from Cleveland. He's done with the Browns, but he says he has accomplished everything he has been able to do in his career. There's nothing left for him to accomplish except one thing. That's a Super Bowl. So, just like the Rams sending Kupp to a championship contending team, although he's already won one, Myles Garrett hasn't. So, he doesn't think the Browns can compete.
That was clear.
Myles Garrett also has 2 years left on his deal. He's got a 5-year, $125 million deal. He's got 2 years left on it. But he's just shy of a $20 million cap hit in 2025. So you have to start thinking of teams that can take on this cap hit or that could be comfortable taking on if they restructure deals. He's the first player to reach 100 sacks before the age of 29. So keep that in mind, Alec. He has a little bit of prestige to his name.
He does.
Where does Myles Garrett go?
Well, okay. I know there's been a lot of turmoil with the Packers and Max Crosby, but hear me out. You have a chance to go get a premium edge rusher. That doesn't come around every day. And the last time the Packers really added the premium edge rusher that wasn't drafted there was Reggie White when he signed there. So if you're Brian Gutekunst, you're sitting there. You're looking to wait or for ways to improve your team. Why not add a first ballot Hall of Famer edge rusher? He's going to be first ballot already. We know that. You have a chance to go get him, and you already said in your press conference that you want to contend now. It's time to contend now. Your window is now. You have Jordan Love. You have an offense that's going to need some work, but you have the cap space for the first time in a long time because Aaron Rodgers is finally gone and off your books. Last year was the first year that they finally just were gone of his contract. So, with all that being said, how aggressive are you willing to get? If you give away the first this year, drafts in Green Bay, I don't care. Parade Myles Garrett around on stage. That's fine. The fans are going to love that too. But if it's not going to be Green Bay, I've seen Philly. He's mentioned wanting to be in Philly with Howie and all them. So it's like, either way, Myles Garrett going to a contender and he's hungry to win, that's worth who knows how many picks in my book. It's at least a first and some, if not a first, maybe a third and a player. You don't know. The value is going to be up there at this point.
Maybe we see a Saquon type situation with Myles Garrett. But I agree. I think he goes to the NFC. And this is a team he goes to. I'm going to tell you where Myles Garrett goes to in 2025.
Where's he
and
going?
I'm glad you're not taking my answers. Maybe he's kind of wanting a little bit of warmer weather like you were in Mobile. Maybe he goes maybe, just maybe, he goes to Tampa Bay. Now, this would mean a reunion with Baker Mayfield, but the Buccaneers would have to restructure contracts in order to get there. Okay, they have just over $5 million in cap space in 2025. These are just projected numbers. Of course, anything can happen by the time we actually get to the season.
Right.
So Mike Evans is on a hefty deal. Baker's on a big deal. Vita Vea is on a big deal. I would try to target one of those, restructure it. You only have to make up $15 million. Obviously, you could cut players. You're not older players you're not really fond of that you just want to do away with. Maybe Shaq Barrett's still there. Do away with some older players. We'll see what happens. But if Shaq Barrett's there, he's an outside linebacker, plays a lot on the line. Why not get you the guy that stays on the line in Myles Garrett?
And as you're talking about that, on any of those three teams we talked about, think about adding Myles Garrett to whatever the defensive line situation is that they already have. You add him to the Bucs, you have Vita Vea there. You add him to the Packers, you got Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark. And then you add him to the Eagles, who just have so many so many defensive linemen that could pair. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, like any of those defenses get even more scary. And I get like there's a lot of teams that could take it on, like his contract, but there's not many teams that you add him to and it's like, oh wow, like what are we gonna do against that defense? And there's those three, no matter who you are, that'd be scary no matter where he ends up.
And if he ends up in Tampa Bay, I don't know if the NFC South is obtainable anymore. They might just be too high powered. Baker's playing some good football. He is playing some good football, and I hate to say it, but you got to think. He's had a couple offensive coordinators come and go since he's been in Tampa.
Yeah.
Dave Canales, he's gone. Baker's first year. Liam Cohen is now the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who was there this past year. So now he has to keep learning. I won't say learning. He's a veteran. I'll call him a veteran. But he still has to play in the style of these offensive coordinators.
All right.
Will that cause a decline in Baker's game? The defense has to make up for it. If it does, adding Garrett to your team might not be so bad.
I agree. And just to add on to mine a little more, you had a leading sack person on your team, Rashawn Gary. He had 7 sacks. You realize you need to get home. If you're the Packers, you need to get home. Keyshawn Nixon had 3 sacks. He almost had half of Gary's sacks this year.
The safety? Did he play safety or does he play
slot corner? Slot corner. Yeah. So, you need someone to go get him. You need someone to go get the quarterback, and it cannot be our slot corner. It cannot be our slot corner. And Gary is good, but to be a number 1 edge rusher, I don't know, that might be out of the question at this point. He needs some help. Whether it's Max Crosby or Myles Garrett, you don't know, but Myles Garrett's available. That is publicly clear that Myles Garrett is available. So if you're Goot, you got to be aggressive.
In order to be aggressive, you got to have a little bit of money.